I'm Dr. Anumir Elias. I'm here to explain you about solid waste management and landfill. In the last class, we had completed about the CO1. I hope you all had understood about the type, sources of waste, what is a hazardous waste, what are the different sources from where the waste is generated, etc. So in the CO2 module 2, we will be studying about completely about how the waste, the generation, and how we are handling the waste, how the on-site handling, on-site processing, how we are transporting the waste, and how we are treating the waste. So this will be studied in this module. So today I'll be teaching you about the on-site handling. So generation, what is mean by waste generation? So those activities in which material are identified as no longer being of value and are either thrown away or gathered together for disposal. That is what a waste is called. So from where the waste is generated, you had studied this in the previous class, that is residential, commercial, street cleaning, institution, etc. So the generation rate is also mentioned in the table given here. Coming to the on-site handling of waste, those activities associated with handling, storage and processing of solid waste at or near the point of generation will be studied in this class. On-site handling, what does mean by on-site handling? How we are handling the solid waste at the place itself. So until they are placed to the container, how we are managing it. For example, in the houses, in the residential houses, how we are managing the waste until we are placing in the container used for storage before collection. For example, moving loaded container to the collection point, returning empty container to the point where they are stored before collection. So on-site handling methods and principle, it involve the public attitude. For example, some people will be throwing the waste exactly. We have a dustbin, for example, dry waste and wet waste. We will be putting exactly based on the waste itself. But some people will be throwing in the public roads and all. So it depends on the public attitude, how they are behaving, and individual belief, and ultimately affects the public health. So the on-site handling depends mainly on the public attitude. So it is an activity associated with the handling of solid waste until they are placed in the container used for storage before collection. So on-site handling means until we are placed in the container, what all activities we are doing, what all handling of solid waste we are doing comes under the on-site handling. They may take place at the time before, during or after storage. So in the domestic solid waste, it can be low and medium rise apartment or dwelling. So that is a house or a low and medium rise apartment. So it is how we are doing. Curb collection by waste collection agency. That is, residents are responsible. Each resident is responsible for placing loaded storage container at the curb. So each person in the house or the resident person are responsible, and they have to return the empty container to the storage location. In the high rise apartment, that means in the case of flats and all, what we are doing, picked by the building personnel from each floor. There will be a person will be there to take the waste from each floor, and they will be taken to the basement area, and from the basement they taken to the basement area by the tenants. So bagged and placed by the tenants in especially designed chutes. So in the low rise apartment, each resident are responsible, but in the high rise apartment, that is flats and all, there will be a person to take it from the each floor, and he will be taken to the basement area, and he will be given to the bagged and placed by the tenant in a proper chutes. So solid waste collected in large container can be, it will be large container, it will be small container. So if it is a large container, we will be keeping some rollers under the container, so the container will be completely filled, and if there is any gap or any empty space, we will be compact it and we will be taking it out, and compactors will be used for the large containers and all. And there is already, other than the roller container, there will be stationary containers also will be there. So type of containers will be depend on based on the location, and if small container means if that locality is having very less weight, or in that house resident is having less waste, mean we'll be using small container. If more waste is generated means we'll be using large container. So large container, it is difficult to transport, so we will be using some rollers below that. So the containers will be classified based on the type and based on the capacity of the container. So how we are classified, it depends on the characteristics of the solid waste to be collected or collection frequency. If you are daily collecting the waste means we need a normal container only, but if you are collecting from 2 to 3 days or in alternate days means more waste will be there. So based on that the capacity of the container will be varied. Space available for placement of the container is another reason for the classification of the container, and mandatory requirement with respect to collection or method or equipment, etc. And what are the locations? The waste container can be kept inside of house or back of house, or it can be low-rise apartment, low-rise family, multi-family apartment means large container placed in specially designed and designated enclosures. High-rise apartment means it can be kept in the basement service area, it can be in the ground floor or commercial and industrial complex, or there will be a specific service area. So here you can see the on-site handling. You can see the waste bins are kept here. So these are the some of the waste bins. So here you can, the second image also you can see the waste bins. So these are the storage collections for on-site container for the apartment complex. So importance of on-site handling. Why it is important? So it will reduce the volume of waste generated, and the other thing is physical form or recover usable material. So if we collect the waste regularly, we can see that the dry waste, wet waste, we can separate it properly. We can see whether anything can be reusable in that, and we can reuse it, and we can reduce the volume of the waste also. And on-site handling method depends upon sorting, shredding, grinding, composting. What does mean by sorting? That means, as I already told, we have to sort the waste, whether it is dry waste or wet waste. So that has to be done by the individual itself. So dry waste includes wood or metals, glass, etc. Wet waste include the waste, that is food waste or organic waste, refers to the wet waste. So these waste has to be segregated properly, because some will be biodegradable and some will be non-biodegradable. So we have to sort it properly so that we can do the treatment or proper disposal of the waste accordingly. So sorting. So organic waste should also be segregated for disposal. The following are the categories recommended. So there will be some leftover food will be done. So we can use that food material for the composting purpose, because it will generate the bacteria. So if there is any meat or bones are there, animal waste are there, or leftover food materials are there, etc., can be given to the as a manure to the plants, or it can be made as a composting also. So we have to properly sort out the waste for this purpose, so that we can do the disposal also properly. Peel and scraping from fruit, vegetable can be used as a degradable waste. And cut flowers, corks, coffee grinding, fruit, tea bag, etc. can be used for composting. So when we are going for composting, proper sorting of waste has to be done prior to that. Next comes under on-site storage. So in the houses, people has to store the waste properly. So it should be a temporarily storing only. So in that temporarily storing, people has to store it properly and give to the persons who come for collecting. Or if it is an individual house, we have to dispose it, or we have to treat it accordingly. So individual householder or businessman has responsibility for on-site storage of solid waste. For individual home industry, proper on-site storage of solid waste is the beginning of the disposal. So on-site storage is the first beginning of the disposal. Handling, storage, then only it will be processed and it will be taken out for the proper treatment or disposal. So on-site storage. 4 factors that should consider in the case of on-site storage. One is the type of the container to be used, the location where the container is kept, and the public health, collection method and time. We have to collect it properly, or else insects will be generated, bacteria will be generated. So we have to proper use the container. We have to keep the container in a proper location. It should not create any nuisance to the public people, and it should not generate any diseases. And it has to be collected in a proper method, and it has to be stored and disposed in a proper way. Next comes under the on-site processing. On-site processing is intended to improve disposal option, recoverable valuable resources, and prepare materials for recovery. So on-site processing means we have to process the waste properly. So the local and global environment, reliability, safety of the workers, or ease of operation, efficiency, etc. has to be evaluated properly during the various processing of on-site treatment. So the on-site processing, some of the objectives of solid waste processing include component separation, volume reduction, size reduction, resource recovery. So the component has to be separated, the waste has to be separated properly. We have to reduce the volume of the waste. So if any water content is there, we have to remove the water content so that the volume will be reduced. We can compact it. Size reduction has to be done, and resource recovery. If anything we can recycle or reuse, we have to recover that and we have to reuse it. So these are some of the on-site processing that we have to do. So I hope you all understood about on-site handling, on-site processing and on-site storage. So these are some of the basic things that we have to do from our part to keep a waste proper. And in the next class you will be studying about how the collection method and how the waste will be transported to the disposal area or for the treatment process. So we will see in the next class. Thank you everyone.